Hey, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking through some art interview questions. It's been exactly a year since I did my interview, so I thought it'd be nice to just give some information about what they can be talking to you about and just reassure you if you're panicking or anything, or you have already done it and you're worried that you didn't answer it correctly. I have got your back, so don't worry. Still some questions that can come up even if you're not doing an art and design degree. I've only ever done 2 interviews. One was for primary education and then one was for graphic design. Very different, I know. From doing both of those interviews, I can definitely say there's an overlapping on what type of questions they can ask you, but I would also say that obviously there's a little bit of difference with art and design subjects. But if you haven't had any information and you're feeling a little bit lost, then hopefully this video can help you a little bit. These are the questions that she was asking me, but there was a lot of just nice, genuine conversations happening. Remember that it's a good mix sometimes. I know it depends on who's interviewing you, but for me, she was just talking to me, like having a normal conversation, and she was just adding in those interview type of questions. First thing I would say is to relax. Not think of it like The Apprentice type of interviews, you know? They're not trying to grill you and they're not trying to catch you out or something like that. They're genuinely just wanting to know more about you, what inspires you, what makes you want to study on their course, why did you pick that place to study. So don't feel too nervous. It's the one thing I can 100% say. I was so nervous going into it and I was just so scared. I didn't know what to expect, but the people that were interviewing me and just everyone around who were in the same boat as you were so nice. And yeah, that's just one thing I would definitely say, don't worry too much. I definitely know sometimes, you know, you can have a bad interviewer or something like that and they can be a bit mean. From my experience, they've always been really nice. So I would say that's the first thing, is to just relax and don't look at it too much like you're being interrogated, because then you're not going to be thinking straight. And yeah, that's one thing I would say. Showing a portfolio, they're going to be asking you questions about your portfolio and just different things around that. So if you haven't seen my art foundation video, I will link it in the description, because that was basically my portfolio. There's not much of a difference. There was probably a few digital things that I did that I included in the actual digital slide that I sent, but I would say that was the same portfolio that I brought with me to my interview. And yeah, we just went through that and we talked about it. From GCSEs and A-levels I did fine art, and then with the foundation I was doing everything, like DT, laser, photography, just a wider range. My portfolio from my foundation is different to the portfolio that I use at A-levels. So I would say that is something to think about as well. Depends, I guess, on university you're looking at and the modules and just everything like that. So just make sure you've done your research on the university and the modules. That is definitely something I can say from experience trying to get onto my foundation. I was trying to just jump straight into doing a graphic design foundation without any background portfolio stuff surrounding graphics or visual communications or something like that, which is kind of the same thing. But yeah, I would say that is the reason why I couldn't get on to do a foundation in graphic design, because all my work was just drawings and paintings and like monoprints of like textures and stuff. It just wasn't really visual communication side of things. With my foundation, we were doing stuff that was kind of focused around graphics, and that means my portfolio makes more sense for that degree. So just make sure you sort out your portfolio a little bit. You just need to know what you want to do for the degree. And if you're not sure, then I recommend doing a foundation. I've talked about it quite a lot in my other video, but yeah, I would say it was a great stepping stone. It's exactly what I needed before going on to do a full-on degree. So yeah, just figure out what you want and what works best for you in that moment in time. How did you find out about the university? That is just you saying you found out online through your college or sixth form. Yeah, you're just talking about how you found out about the university. What is the first piece of work that you like from your portfolio? Picking out one of my favorite pieces and explaining it a little bit. One piece you found quite challenging, something that you do without even realizing it when you're annotating your work, or you are at the end of a term and you're looking at what you did well, what you didn't do well, what you could improve on. That is kind of the same thing when it comes to the interview, that they just want to know what worked, what didn't work, and what you did to improve on that. So just honesty, really. One piece you did not like and what you did to change it. I'm guessing it was probably something to do with Photoshop or something like that, because it was my first time around doing it. And what I did to change that, I guess, was talking to my tutors and to my friends, and, you know, just finding out what I can do to improve it. I would definitely say one thing I talked about was group tutorials, and how getting feedback from like your peers and things like that was really helpful, and it's still a very great thing now. Next thing I showed was my sketchbook work. I had like different sketchbooks for each project that I was doing. I brought the most recent ones and the ones that I was, you know, just most proud of, and I really liked the work that I did in it, and I was just going through that and showing it. And so you're just flicking through your work. So I'd say it's kind of like a group tutorial where you are just showing all your work to everyone at the table. It's exactly the same, but it's just for one person. What is one final piece that you are proud of? Don't forget reality piece that I did. That was my first time combining like my own drawings and making it into a poster like that. So I would say that was probably one of my favorite final outcomes. And I also really liked the phone with the hand, with the person like strangling with the phone and stuff like that. That was the Global Goals project. I think that was like one of the first projects that I did in my visual communications pathway. I was very proud of it. So that is what I was talking about, and she could see that. So yeah. Do you have any 3D pieces to show? They like seeing that as well. But again, it just depends on what your degree is that you're thinking of studying. Why do you want to join this course? And I know that when I was practicing for the interview, I was thinking, oh my goodness, I hate this question. It's the same as like, what made you come to this uni and all of that. I don't know, it's just what I want to do. I spoke about kind of what I said at the start of this video. I did fine art for most of GCSEs and A-levels, and then I did my foundation course. Before I even started my foundation course, I should add, I already knew I wanted to do graphic design, but I went into my foundation course open-minded, and I had so much fun just experimenting in different pathways. I did some fashion and textiles and things like that, and I would say that once I said that, she wanted to see some of my fashion and textile work, and I don't think I brought the sketchbook, which is not good. So make sure you bring all your sketchbooks, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Ended up back at the idea of doing graphic design, and so I went to the open days for all different unis, and I fell in love with the course here. So that was what I said, and yeah, you just got to be honest with why you want to study that degree at that university. And if you're not sure what to say, yeah, just talk through it with a friend or your parent or your sister, your brother, your cousin, your teacher, like anyone. Next question. I still think of it. I think this is the only question I felt like I said I didn't say the right thing for, which I don't think it's a big deal, but for me I was like, oh, why did I say that? Do you like the idea of research essays? Thought she was talking about contextual studies, and I just went, yeah, sure. Yeah, we have lectures for it, so yeah. At the time, contextual studies for me was the history of, you know, art, but it was also specific artists and the history of those artists, like Saul Bass or Joseph Miller Brockman or something like that. Also about like specific movements, Cubanism or something. Since I've done my essay for my first year, I would say what she meant was probably that you do the history of graphic design, for example, for me, and the essay question is maybe about a specific period of history, and you're doing an essay like that, so you're learning the history of that specific time period. For me, I looked at the International Typographic Style, and that was looking at different artists of that time period. Also, an example of a completely different movement that graphic designers went towards was punk design or psychedelia, and I looked at punk design. So that, I feel like I've gone round in circles, but all she was basically was saying is, do you like that idea of learning the history of a completely different time period, the graphics history? And I just thought she meant like contextual artists or something, because that's what I was doing at foundation. This year, doing my course, now it makes more sense what she meant. Was there an area you have never done before, and how did you approach this? I feel like I talked about Photoshop, or even just doing the contextual studies. I think that's it was just in a different way that I've done before. A bit tricky to remember everything, even though it was a year ago. I don't know, now that it's passed, it's just like out of my head and I'm focused on like now. But yeah, it was something along those lines. Is there any artist that inspired you with your work? I think it's good to have a wide variety of different artists that inspire you. So I was doing life drawing at the time as well, so having some life drawing artists, and then having some like fine art artists, and some collage artists, and photography artists, and yeah, just having different artists is always good. I mentioned Saul Bass, Joseph Miller Brockman. Little did I know the history behind those artists in that much detail. I don't think I did. Like, I actually recently included Joseph Miller Brockman in my essay, and he was like part of the grid system, which is like the Swiss design period. And yeah, it's just funny to me because when I was mentioning it, I definitely just saw him as like, I don't even know, a different type of artist to the one I know now. So I would say, depending on whatever you want to do for your degree, it's really good to have some artists in that field, but it's very good to have other artists in other fields of the art and design world. It's always good to have just a few to bring out into the interview just in case they ask you, or you can just slip it in, and I think it's quite impressive if you do that. So I would definitely try to remember at least 2 or 3. How did those artists help develop your projects? Alongside your brief or your project that you're doing, it's nice to have an artist to go along with that you can use for inspiration, and you can mention within your work that you have this artist and this artist in mind. How you are finding your current education. For me, I was on my foundation, so I was just talking about that, just how I'm finding it so far. So again, just a genuine conversation. For my foundation course, we had a sketchbook dedicated to contextual artists for each project that we do. So we needed to have like at least 4 for like the first project, 4 for the next. So it'd go on. It's always good to bring that book to show that you, are taking that extra step to learn more about it and understand different artists around the world, or just different types of artists. So I definitely would say if you have a contextual book or something like that, it's really useful to bring it. Another thing, they are very interested in seeing physical evidence of your work. Having a physical copy sometimes is even better than a digital copy. But obviously in the world we're living in right now, it might be online, but just make sure you have a very clear image of your work. You are worried that your interview was terrible, awful, and all of the above. Just don't stress about it. You did your best, and It's probably not as bad as you think. Definitely so happy to be in the position I'm in right now. A whole year later, it's insane. I was so nervous doing my interview, and I would have never expected to have been on the course and been loving every step of it. So happy that I took that jump and I applied to do a foundation, which got me to where I am today. So whatever you decide, whatever course you want to apply from, I wish you all the best. And yeah, I guess that's the end of this video. I hope that some of the questions were helpful if you are thinking of applying next year, or if you are just interested in what an art and design interview is like. I hope I answered some of those questions. But yeah, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe for new videos, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.